by His Excellency Ned Lamont, Governor, an official statement. Whereas the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer LGBTQ communities are an integral part of Connecticut's population, and whereas the fight for dignity and equality for LGBTQ people is reflected in the tireless dedication of advocates and allies who strive to make this a more inclusive society, and whereas the state of Connecticut celebrates the diversity of its people and their right to live their lives out loud, free of discrimination, fear, and prejudice, and whereas the month of June is recognized internationally as Pride Month to commemorate the Stonewall riots of June 1969, when people in the LGBTQ community in New York City, at great personal and physical risk to themselves, courageously fought back against the increasing hostility and discrimination they faced from police at the Stonewall Inn, which was a refuge for queer people of color, homeless young people, and drag queens. And whereas Connecticut is proud to have led the nation in adopting laws supporting the LGBTQ community, including being the first state in the nation to enact a law through the legislature granting same-sex couples with the rights and responsibilities of marriage, and whereas the state of Connecticut remains committed to protecting the civil rights of the LGBTQ community, and whereas there remains much work to do across the world to protect the safety and security of the LGBTQ community against the threat of violence and discrimination, and whereas every human being has the right to live their lives openly as who they are, now therefore I, Ned Lamont, Governor of the State of Connecticut, do hereby officially designate June 2020 as LGBTQ Pride Month in the state of Connecticut. Signed, Ned Lamont, Governor.
Hi. June celebrates gay pride. So I thought I'd share a piece of my own gay history. When my wife Marty and I met and eventually decided we wanted to share our lives together, we also began to talk about having children. It was decided that Marty was the one who would carry the child, becoming the biological mom. Since there was no way we could legally marry at the time, we decided to establish our desire to co-parent this child by giving her my last name. She was born and we became a family in all the same ways that straight parents become a family when a child is born to them. But there was a major difference. That being, I was not considered Katie's legal parent. If anything were to happen to Marty, it would not be a given that I could continue to raise our daughter. There would also be the problem of signatures from legal guardians needed throughout the life of a child. At that time, I couldn't even adopt her unless Marty were to give up her parental rights. Not exactly what we were after, which was the safety for Katie until she became 18. It would be 5 long years before same-sex adoption would become legal in the state of Connecticut. When it did, I began the process of adopting our daughter. While the law was in place, the process to make it happen was not all that clear. The only thing the state of Connecticut could come up with was the stringent procedure of a home study, which had once been routinely used for heterosexual step-parent adoptions. But the court had long since stopped making that a requirement and what people were allowed to waive these home study requirements for a step parent in a heterosexual marriage. The norm had become only filing an application, a visit to family court, and it was done. But when I started the process of adopting our daughter, the state decided to incorporate all the original step parent adoption processes of a home study, including veterinarian certification for our cats, well water tests, 4 to 5 pages of questions to be answered, a heating system inspection, on and on were the requirements, and also 1 or 2 home visits by a licensed social worker, which included talking to then 5-year-old Katie privately. But this all came with a price tag. Once this was all done and I passed, we went to see the family court judge, who issued an official certification of adoption. Katie's birth certificate was reissued with both Marty's and my name listed on it. Finally, she was safe from the unexpected, but only in Connecticut. every trip out of state included packing a copy of her birth certificate and the official adoption papers. Eventually, Connecticut passed a law in 2016, 16 years after the adoption of my daughter, that allowed for the waiver of that home study requirement, the same as for heterosexual step-parent adoptions. Katie is now well over 18 and needs no special protections. But I become increasingly concerned for other gay couples wanting to form a family with children. When I hear of the federal government considering banning all adoptions of children by gay people, it feels like we may be sliding back in time when it was not a foregone conclusion that we have the same rights of straight citizens. So when you hear about these possible changes or loss of rights for your gay neighbors, be concerned, speak up, even if it doesn't affect you personally. For it is a real possibility that many rights will be taken away, and that will cause real pain and a multitude of problems that we in the gay community thought were over.